So I have been talking for the last few days or so with Katelyn Davis's biological father, Matthew Davis. And if you don't remember who Katelyn Davis is, I have two videos here on the channel that I made about her. Katelyn Davis was a 12-year-old girl who committed suicide on a live streaming platform. And it struck a nerve with a lot of people. It struck a nerve with me. I made videos where I talked about what I thought went wrong in her life, or, you know, how she even got to that point, because it was such a devastating story, and the fact that she had this whole thing broadcast live, I believe it was on live.me for the entire world to see, was just absolutely devastating. And so to my surprise, Matt reached out to me a couple days ago on Twitter. We were able to have a discussion back and forth, not in an interview, sort of set up, but much more in like a dialogue where we could just talk about the situation with Katelyn, where he stood. I got the feeling that he really just wanted to open up and share his side of the story, his side of where he feels things went wrong with Katelyn and how she grew up in her environment. We covered everything. We talked about Katelyn's childhood. We talked about how she was raised. We talked about where we both thought and he thought that things went wrong with Katelyn, and the legal system relating to children that grow up in divorced families and parental rights, and maybe if Katelyn's suicide could have been prevented, what good could come of this. But Matt did, out of his own free will, send me a couple of things to prove that he is in fact himself. I'm going to go ahead and share those. I am going to obviously fade things out that are more personal for his privacy. But these are the things Matt sent to me to prove that he is in fact Katelyn Davis's biological father. Now, until I can figure out, hopefully, how to resurrect the interview that Matt and I did over Skype the other day, I'm going to try and go ahead and paraphrase a little bit about what Matt and I talked about. We talked over the course of 2 days, and Matt wanted to share his side of the story, like I said, about Katelyn and her life and where he thinks things went wrong. He watched the two of my videos. He did hint at the fact that there is a criminal investigation that is currently ongoing. So people that have been posting on my Katelyn Davis videos wondering if there are any updates regarding her case. To my knowledge, there is a criminal investigation going on to see perhaps if there were any situations or instances of abuse, physical, mental, emotional abuse, if the living situation that Katelyn and her siblings were living in the trailer, which she had made public in one of her streams, was a example of child neglect. Matt contacted me because he wanted to share his side of the story, and he also wanted me to include the following documents and images as further proof. Again, I kind of told him that, you know, on the internet, people are very finicky and they're going to believe what they want to believe, no matter how much proof you put out there. But as I said, Matt and I discussed a lot of Katelyn's childhood and her upbringing. We discussed his time in the military. We discussed her life after he and Katelyn's mom separated, and the living environment she was in before she committed suicide. I went back and researched Katelyn's story before I did the interview with Matt because I needed to brush up on some facts regarding her. And I think the thing that's most important that Matt wants people to know is the situation with Katelyn and how she was living towards the end of her life. Obviously, to a lot of viewers watching it, seemed to be unsafe. Katelyn wrote in herself a blog, which was called The Diary of a Broken Doll. about how there were nights where she didn't even have a bed, where she was sleeping next to leaking water pipes. So these things are prime examples, in my opinion, of neglect of a 12-year-old girl who, in my mind, had been put in almost a impossible situation where she'd been hospitalized twice. A lot of people had made claims. Katelyn herself made claims saying that Matthew didn't come to visit her when she was hospitalized. Matt disagreed, or Matt's and Matt is okay. He said, I have free reign to share and talk about the things that we discussed, and if we can't schedule a follow-up interview where I can actually share the conversation that we had, hopefully this will subside. For now, Matt's primary issue with Katelyn's life, and in his mind where things started to go downhill and really cascade, to use his own words, is after Katelyn and Katelyn's mom and he separated, the contact that he had with her was just, in his words, it wasn't there. He didn't have any ability to contact her because of the mother, because of the men that the mother was with, because of threats that he had gotten from men who were having relationships with the mother. So he felt almost completely blocked out of having a relationship with Katelyn. And in several of her videos, she did make brief mentions of her dad. And it wasn't positive. She did say that she mentioned when she was in the hospital, her real dad didn't come to visit her. But Matt's position on everything seems to be that of a father who just didn't have any access to his daughter. And when he got wind that she was in trouble or having troubles, there was just nothing he could do because he and his side of the family felt ostracized from Katelyn and that current living environment. I asked Matt a lot if he thinks Katelyn had a chance, if Katelyn's living situation was improved, if it was different, if money wasn't an option, if she didn't come from a divided home. Do you think she stood a chance of avoiding committing suicide? And I think he agreed with me in the terms that it probably would have been very difficult for her, considering the amount of pressures and stress that was put upon her. Matt and I both discussed whether or not Katelyn may have had some sort of a mental illness, and in his opinion, she may have been dealing with some sort of depression. He knows that she had attempted, or, you know, she had gone to the hospital, but he didn't know anything about whether or not her mother had taken her to get any kind of mental help. In my opinion, because she didn't think anybody would care except the people who were watching her on a live stream. And he, I think, especially because he's coming out with his story now, is relating very much to the pressures of social media, and that's very frustrating for a father who has limited contact with his daughter. I discussed and I tried to bring home the point of social media with Matt, asking him, you know, do you think it was a good thing at least that Katelyn had social media, that she did have the ability to use her live stream as an outlet to connect with people, even if it did seem to unfortunately do her in the end, because she broadcast her suicide live. People putting out false information about you and trying to stand up for yourself, trying to do the right thing, but no matter what, people on the internet feeling that they, you know, have all the facts and coming to conclusions and assumptions about who you are as an individual when they haven't met you or they have only read or seen things online. I did discuss Katelyn's videos, which are online right now for anybody that wants to see them again. She live streamed very frequently until she killed herself. It caused a lot of controversy relating to whether or not what was going on at the home could have been prevented, and that's why I did want to talk to Matt and hear Matt's side of the story, because I wanted to ask him, if you knew what was going on, why didn't you take every single effort to try and step in? And what I got from him, again, is that he literally, physically, emotionally, mentally was blocked out. And even if he did hear if Katelyn was in the hospital or if something had gone wrong with her, there was no way he could have made any moves to step in and help the situation because he was getting threatened by other family members. Is that enough for some people? I don't know. Some people may say, well, he should have tried harder. I did press Matt on that, and, you know, he can confirm it. And I did say, well, do you think the law can step in? Is there anything that the law can do? And he and I both discussed courts always will tend to favor the mother. No matter how incapable of providing a safe and secure living environment, courts do tend to favor the mother when it comes to divorces and who gets custody and where the child gets to stay. So Katelyn at all times felt like this kind of, you know, this almost animal. She was being tugged and pulled back and forth. The entire summation of Katelyn's life, it didn't involve Katelyn at all. It revolved around the people who were unable to, you know, put their bootstraps on and be adults and put their drama aside for 5 minutes to see that there was a girl in the middle who obviously was taking on a lot, who obviously was in a lot of pain, and the people around her just could not get outside of themselves and be selfless and not worry about what was going on with them, the infighting, and focus on this girl who so obviously is in pain and needs some sort of attention, because what was going on with Katelyn at that time just wasn't working, and that inevitably wound up being an incentive for her to kill herself in front of millions of people online. I wanted to make this video to thank Matt. Matt and I are still talking right now. I am praying that the situation with our interview is resolved soon. It downloaded, because I downloaded a free program to record Skype calls. I recorded video of myself talking. I heard Matt, you know, I saw a picture of Matt. And it was an hour and 44 minutes. This is the conversation. Here's a screen grab of the conversation between Matt and I that happened yesterday. He is really wanting to get his side of the story out. He even was hesitating about talking to me today, or yesterday rather, even though we did talk the other day. And I encouraged him not to let the internet get to him, not to let the hate get to him, not to let the trolls or the people who are accusing you of things, who are trying to ruin your credibility, get to you, to rise above that and to keep sharing your side of the story, because I think his voice is a very critical voice in this situation, and I think it can help a lot of people, because even though the focus of our conversation obviously was on Katelyn and Katelyn's life, I asked him, you know, what was the memory about Katelyn that made you laugh the most? Was there a memory or something about Katelyn that just made you smile? Or, and he told me, took somebody to the prom and Katelyn came along and she was just so happy and she was singing and she was just a really sweet, happy girl. And something happened when they split up, which is very common, and the amount of contact that she had with him, things that may or may not have been going on at that house, it just put her into this black pit that she just could not find a way out of. And if social media attributed to that, I don't know. Did it take something from that? I couldn't help but wonder. I said to Matt also, I said, you know, just for the record, none of us have grown up with perfect childhoods or have grown up in a perfect living environment. We all have things in our childhood that either make or break us. And I asked Matt, I said, do you think if Katelyn didn't have the concerns or the stresses that she did, if she had two parents that were together, if she was in a stable home environment, if financial issues and money going back and forth and courts weren't there, do you think she would still be alive and with us today? And I think he agrees. I think he feels that too many kids, too many teenagers that are growing up with split families, that don't have the kind of money and don't feel that the courts are properly aware of the lack of attention that perfectly capable and loving fathers, which there are many of them, the fathers just don't get treated the same when it comes to divorce. And I made a parallel as well to Matt, where I said, you know, nowadays we have gay couples, we have, you know, 2 men, 2 women. In those situations, when you have a divorce and there's a child between the two, you're no longer going to have the gender. So you're going to have to focus on purely the living environment. And even then, he said, still, the courts and what's going on with, you know, mothers and fathers, or fathers and fathers, if the child is in an environment that is not safe, something needs to be done, because what there is right now isn't good enough. And is Katelyn Davis a product of that system failing? I think Katelyn's tragedy is a combination of many factors, and I think that people who are judging Matt right now need to calm down, give the guy a chance, give him a chance to get his side of the story out, and don't pass judgment or accusations, especially as there may or may not be, and I don't want to say for sure, criminal investigations regarding some of the individuals that were involved in Katelyn's life towards the end. You don't know the facts. If you know the fact and then you want to make some sort of a judgment based on that, you're in every right. But, you know, I just wanted to say that Matt and I had some really good talks. I'm very humbled, and I thought it was really cool that he reached out to me personally, and I wanted to let you guys know that we are talking back and forth. Katelyn is somebody who inspired a lot of people. There's a lot of people online right now that want justice in her death. They want to find some sort of meaning in how a child that young could have been taken from us. What are the ways we can prevent it? How can we stop another Katelyn Davis from feeling she has no way out? And by talking to Matt, I feel only good can come of it. So anybody that's watching this video that's not familiar with Katelyn's story, I suggest you research it a little bit and try to hold all your judgments of him until everything is said and done. And in the meantime, try to speak out. If there's anybody you know that's 12 years old, 13 years old, that's in a similar living environment and they have nobody to talk to, and they're feeling suicidal, just try to be a friend to them, try to talk to them, because this is a very common situation right now, and it's an issue which I feel there are more than plenty logical, rational solutions that can be applied in the court systems themselves to prevent children from taking on these sorts of burdens, and it will result in saving a life. So keep watching, keep staying tuned to this channel. I had to kind of revisit this story again. Thank you, Matt, for coming to me. Matt has, as I said, willingly given of his time, and he wants to get his story out there. He has shared everything I have shown you in this video, so you can, if you're interested in the case, if you're interested in Katelyn's life, keep tuned. Stay tuned to my videos, because I am certain I will be doing a few of these, and just try to hold all judgments to the end. You know, I think the most important thing with Katelyn is we've got to keep her name, this case, this story, it needs to continue being spoken about. We need to keep having a dialogue about this, because it's very, very common, and it's a very emotional issue, obviously, but it's also very relevant as it deals with social media and people turning to social media as a psychologist. People are looking to the internet to be a psychologist, a therapist, because they don't have people at home that they feel they can talk to, and sometimes it works out really well and people are helped. I have seen a tremendous amount of people get great support from communities online, but I have also seen the dark side. I have witnessed the dark side, and that dark side, if you're a 12-year-old girl, very vulnerable, can be very dark, and we don't need to have any more 12-year-olds killing themselves on live media. It's just not, we can't live in a world where this is happening. And we have the connections, we have the abilities to make a difference, to make a change, to help. So let's do that. And I'm going to try to do that by continuing to talk about her story, and by sharing whatever I have told Matt that he is welcome to continue sharing anything with me that he wants. He is feeling misunderstood. People are trying to just accuse him of all kinds of things and validate him, and just spread lies, and it's very difficult to, you know, weed through all the lies to hopefully speak your truth. And people can have your opinions. And Matt, for the record, by the way, I want to make sure that this is said. Matt was very clear in that he knows he made mistakes as a father to Katelyn. He was not a perfect dad. None of us are. And he knows he could have done things better. Obviously, everything, you know, is 2020 in hindsight. You know, Matt didn't want to say, you know, place the blame on any one person for Katelyn's death. He has multiple people and multiple institutions that he feels are responsible and can prevent this from happening again. But he in no way was seeking any kind of sympathy from me. And I talked to him for a couple of hours, 2 days now. And he seems to be a very astute, very real person who's coming to terms with the fact that he lost his daughter in such a public way, and also reflecting on how we can alter the course of this happening again in another child's life. So I'm sorry if I warbled on a little bit about this, guys. This is what happens when you record an interview on Skype and it doesn't save properly. You are forced to, in your own words, kind of tap together everything you talked about with somebody, and hopefully I didn't you know, speak out of place here. And Matthew, if so, I'm sure he will correct me. But stay tuned to my channel. This story is still very relevant. Matthew, like I said, is still talking to me. And just give him a chance. Listen to his side of the story. And I have said that I would be more than happy to be a vehicle and a platform for him to share that with people who are interested in Katelyn's life, and hopefully this can help another person. It's a situation that we can prevent easily. So thank you guys very much for tuning into this and learning a little bit about Katelyn Davis's father and the story. If you are curious about it, just Google Katelyn Davis online. Warning, it's incredibly troubling, the videos that are online about her. So I would not allow any kids to watch the videos, but try to keep an open mind, and I will do the same. And again, thank you, Matt, so much. And we will have more videos about this topic, I'm sure, in the coming days. Thank you guys so very much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.